Hey guys, in the last video we went ahead and took this very simple code off the Node.js website and put it into play, and we just have a very simple web server that's just spitting out some text at us. Alright, so what I want to do now is bring it up a notch, and we want to actually serve HTML pages, which is something that's closer to a real life situation. Alright, so what I'm going to do is right now just get rid of all of this. We'll keep the HTTP module because we still need that. Alright, we also need a couple other things, a couple other modules. So we're also going to say constant URL. I'm going to set that to require URL. Okay, we also want the path module. So we'll say path equals require path. Alright, and then we also want the file system module. So we're going to say const fs, and we want to set that to require fs. Okay, so we're bringing in these modules. Now what we're going to do is we want to set the type of files that we want to be able to serve. Alright, so let's say var, actually we can use a constant here. We'll say const mime types, and this is going to be set to an object. Alright, so we'll say HTML, and this will be text slash HTML. Okay, we'll do JPEG, so that's image slash JPEG. Also JPG. Alright, we'll say PNG. Okay, we want to be able to serve JavaScript files, so JS. And that's going to be text slash JavaScript. And finally CSS. Okay, that'll be text slash CSS. Alright, good. So now what we want to do is we want to use that create server function that we used before. So we want to say http dot create server. Alright, and then inside that we're going to have a function, and that's going to take in a request and response. Alright, and in here we're going to set a variable called URI, and we're going to use the URL module for that. We'll say url.parse. Alright, and then we want to pass in here request.url, and then we want to add on .pathname. Alright, just like that. Now we want a variable for the file name. So we'll say file name, and then we're going to use the path module. So path.join. And then in here we're going to say process.cwd. And that's a function. And then another parameter, which is going to be the URI. Okay, but we want to put that in an unescape function. Oops. URI. Alright, and then let's just do a console log. Okay, we're just going to say, whoops, I'm going to say loading, and then we can concatenate on the URI. Oops, just like that. Alright, and we're going to create a variable called stats. So now what we want to do is we want to check for the file that is entered. So for instance, if we go to let's say slash page.html, it has to check and make sure that that page HTML is actually there. Alright, so let's see, we're going to go right under this stats here, and we're going to do a try catch block. So we'll say try and catch. Alright, we'll pass in an E. Alright, so what we want to try is we want to take that stats variable and we're going to set that to fs, which is the file system module, and then we want lstat_sync. Alright, and then we can just pass in the file name. Alright, now in the catch block we're going to so if this doesn't work, we want to send a 404 error. Alright, so we'll say res.writeHead. Alright, and then the status we want is 404. I'm going to send along the content type. Okay, so content type, that actually has to be in quotes. And that's going to be text/plain. Then we want to say res.write. And I'm just going to put in some text here. We'll say 404 not found. Alright, and then we're going to say res.end and then return. Alright, so if it doesn't find the file, we're just going to send a 404. Now down here, we'll say if stats.isFile. Okay, so if there is a file, then let's set a variable called MIME_type. Actually, going to make that T uppercase. And then we're going to set that to MIME_types, which is our array. And then in here, we're going to say path.extName, file name, and we're going to say dot split, and we want to split it at the dot. Alright, because what we're doing is we're getting the extension of the file. Okay, we're going to see if it's .html, .jpeg, whatever it may be. Alright, so that's what this xname does. And we want to split it at the dot. And then we're just going to say dot reverse. And we want the first one in the array, so that'll be 0. Alright, and we'll end that with a semicolon. So we'll get the MIME type, and then we want a response of 200, which means everything's good. So we'll say res.writeHead, and this will be status 200, and then we also want the content type. Okay, content type, and then we can simply put in the MIME type variable. Okay, then we're going to create a variable for the file stream. So we'll say var file stream, set that to the file system module, and we want a function called createReadStream. Okay, and then we're going to pass in the file name. Alright, and then we need to say file stream dot pipe and then pass in the response. Alright, now all this stuff here we're not going to have to do in other projects because we'll use something that does this on its own, like Express. Alright, Express is a framework that also has an underlying HTTP server, and we don't have to do all this. Okay, this is just an example to kind of show you what goes on under the hood of an HTTP server. Alright, so if any of this is a little confusing, don't worry about it. Chances are you won't have to do this. Alright, so what we did here is we were checking to see if it was a file or if it was a directory. Alright, if it was a file, then it's going to go ahead and serve that file. Now down here we're going to say else. Actually, we're going to say else if. because we want to check to see if it's a directory. So we'll say stats.isDirectory. Alright, just like that. If it is a directory, then let's say res.writeHead, and we want to pass in a 302. Alright, and then location, we're going to redirect it. So location is going to be index.html. Okay, if we're in a directory and there's no file name, it's going to automatically load index.html. And then we'll just say res.end. Alright, now finally we'll have an else here. And if it's not a file or a directory, we're going to send a 500 error because obviously it's not there. Alright, so let's say res.writeHead. This is going to be a 500 error. I'm going to send content type. Okay, content type is going to be text plain. Res.write. Okay, and we're just going to say 500 internal error. We all love those. And then just put a line break like that. Alright, so that's it. And then at the end here, we have to say .listen. And let's listen on port 1337. Okay, so this is a web server. This will serve HTML pages as long as images and whatever else we have up here in the MIME types array or object. So let's save it. And we're going to have to restart the server. So let's go to our command line here, do a Control-C to stop it, and then say npm start. And we'll see what happens. Alright, so let's see. MIME type. Oh, this should be an equal sign. Okay, remember we don't have any files to load, so let's see what happens. Alright, so we're getting a 404 not found because we're looking for index.html. Alright, so what we'll do is let's go create an index.html. Okay, we'll open that up with Sublime, and we'll say, just put in some tags here. Okay, and our body will just put in an h1, make sure it parses HTML correctly. Let's save that, and let's go and reload, and we get testing. Okay, it's reading our HTML page. So if we create another one, we'll say page.html. Okay, we'll open that up. I'm going to copy this. And we'll say testing page 2, save. And now if we go and change this to page.html, that's going to load up. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and create some more pages, and we'll link them together. We'll include some CSS files, and just test this server out a little bit more.